It was in 1933 that schoolboys Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster from Cleveland, Ohio, together created the series about Superman. Jerry wrote and Joe drew. For 5 years, they tried to sell their comics, but all the newspaper syndicates rejected it. In 1938 something finally happened. The comics industry was beginning to flourish. National Periodical Publications wanted to start a new magazine, and they signed a contract with Jerry and Joe. In June 1938, the first issue of the magazine was published, and the superhero was born. On May 21, 1985, a young Stig Ulrichsen and some friends met Jerry Siegel in Helsingborg, Sweden. This is the interview from that day.
Lois Lane, she was your
Yeah,
wife.
yeah. What's the name again? Noel Kidder. That's right. Margot Kidder. Yeah, perfect casting. Yeah. In other words, when I first saw her, I thought, well, Lois Lane, but she did a fine job. A very lovable characterization. And she had a very good sense of humor, and it came across pretty good. At least I thought so.
And it's your wife who was the model for Lois Lane.
Yeah, she was the original model for Lois Lane for the artist Joe Shuster. Yeah.
Have you ever drawn a Superman yourself?
Oh no, I'm not an artist. I'm a writer, a script writer. Yeah.
And how do you watch his name? It was Joe Shuster.
Joe Shuster, yes.
And how did you find him?
Well, we were school kids together in high school. That's where we first got together, and then we were working on it very shortly after that. I'm sure that nowadays there are going to be a zillion kids in school right now are going to come up with the strips today and tomorrow.
How do you get the idea to Superman?
I mean, I've said it so many times. I was a science fiction fan, and I loved Tarzan, and I loved Doc Savage. I loved all the various pulp magazines with the bizarre heroes like the Shadow, the Spider, the this, the that. So I came up with my own version of a sort of a superhero type character. And Popeye, of course, is crazy about Popeye.
Which year are you born?
I was born in 1914.
Have you any children?
Oh yeah, I have a daughter. And she's modern day Lois Lane. She's a television girl reporter out scooping the world.
In California?
What was that again?
Do you still live in California too?
Yes, right.
And your daughter is reading Superman too?
Well, I don't know if she reads it anymore, but she used to love the comic books years ago.
Yeah. You don't have any influence on the stories made today?
Well, not currently. They have their own staff. They have many writers and artists working on it. Yeah.
What's your plans for the future?
Well, I think I've mentioned that. I have launched several new strips recently, and it remains to be seen if they'll get into books of their own. And I'm constantly writing new graphic novels, etc. And I got my fingers crossed. I think I have some unique new properties, but it remains to be seen what will happen. Oh, and by the way, I guess people don't know this. You probably don't know this, but there was a comic book put out in America called what was it? Siegel and Shuster, Dateline 1930s, and there was some strips, about 25, 30 strips or something that we did when we were kids, which was never published, and it was published in this comic book. It sold quite well, and so they're going to bring out a second issue of some additional old material that we had. A wide variety of topics, humor strips, adventure strips, animated cartoon type strips, everything.
Do you think it's good there are so many superheroes now? The Spider-Man and...
Well, the reason for that is I think they're finding that, at least in America, that's what sells. And they have tried other types of books, and they have sales problems. Now, overseas, another matter. In many countries, they have, I think, romance comics, detective comics, this, that, and the other thing. But strangely enough, in America right now, they're having trouble, moving those other properties. So it was different years ago. Years ago, they had a wide variety of comic books in America too.
In Denmark, for example, there's 50% of the comics are superhero comics.
Well, probably Now, are these new characters, or are these American comics that are being reprinted?
It's with the Marvel comics and
Yeah, well, so
Hulk,
the story is that for years they've been having their comics reprinted in various countries, and evidently they just started reprinting it here, but they have that tremendous backlog of material.
Which comic is your own favorite?
Garfield.
Garfield.
Garfield, I think that's about one of the funniest strips around, and I also like Peanuts, too.
Yes.
Years ago, I used to love Little Abner, but
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Oh yeah, but I think I thought Al Cap did a great job.
You haven't read any of the French comics?
I've seen some. They do beautiful work. I think I mentioned, in some of these interviews I've mentioned that I think a lot of the work in America today is very much influenced by some of the graphic novels that are being done in a number of countries, like especially in France. And I know years ago I used to write for some of the English weeklies, and they had some wonderful artists working there. And I just couldn't understand why the whole world, didn't get excited about this stuff, because there was beautiful work.
And you're working on a graphic novel yourself?
On several of them, so I'm always coming up with something new.
And who are you working with? With the artist?
Well, nowadays I work really more directly with publishers, and they locate the artists.
Yes. Is it DC or Marvel or?
Well, it's a place called Eclipse Comics,
Yes,
and then I did something for a place in Canada, Cerebus, which in America that does quite well. And there are other things cooking. I have offers and other things and placing new things, but it's premature to talk about them.
Yes. Eclipse, it isn't the company that were closed down recently?
No. You're probably thinking of Pacific.
Yes.
Eclipse took over most of the books that Pacific was going to put out, and
Yes.
they have some very fine artists and writers on some very good books, and they've taken them over.
So what do you like the most, the new companies or DC Marvel?
Well,
the new companies are printing a lot of new stuff in the dark market.
what I like about some of the new companies is they're very experimental. They're not afraid to try something different, which I think is great. If anything new comes along which may be exciting, why it's going to come out of experimentation.
But it isn't kid stuff,
Well, they're starting to put out some kid books, but it remains to be seen if they will sell well. It was very different years ago. The Disney comics and Little Lulu, etc., sold very, very well. But they say they're going to try and get again, but it remains to be seen if they will sell well.
How much can you earn at a year to be a
Well,
comic,
that varies tremendously, all depending on the demand for your work and how much you sell.
Yes.
Is American artist well paid though?
Well, nowadays, years ago you used to work for peanuts. Nowadays the rates have gone sky high.
And what about the royalties? There's been a lot of talk about Marvel Comics and not giving the royalties to the artists.
Well, Marvel Comics has a line that they call Epic Comics,
Yes.
and in that line the originators retain ownership and receive royalties. So they have a special division for that,
Yes.
which is a good, what do you call it, a very good healthy thing for the field, because naturally the artists are going to do their, try even more, have to do the best they can if they get a fair shake.
But there is a lot of fighting for their artwork and that kind of stuff.
Well, there is tremendous competition, especially for the better artists. I've heard a lot of the publishers have difficulty getting top artists because the best artists they have all the assignments they can handle.
You named before that Garfield was your favorite comic. Have you ever met Jim Davis yourself?
No. But I've seen him interview, and I respect him very much. He's a very knowledgeable, bright man, and he does a great job on his strip.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
If you want that, there's some
Oh, wonderful.
comic I made.